Retirement is short, my friends. So if you're in your 50s or 60s and you want a retirement that actually feels alive, not like you're just sitting around waiting for, I don't know, whatever comes next, then yeah, this video is for you. Because here's what most people won't actually say out loud, right? Like right now, you're probably terrified of wasting your last healthy years just stuck in the same routine over and over. Or maybe you're lying awake at night wondering if you saved enough. But honestly, what you're really scared of is dying with this huge pile of money and this huge pile of regrets. Or maybe, and I see this one a lot, you already feel that time is speeding up. Like the last decade just vanished. And you can barely even remember what you did with it. If any of this hits a nerve, be sure to keep watching, because by the end of this, I'm going to share a pretty simple way to actually spend your short retirement wisely. And I mean, without blowing up your future or, sleepwalking through the best years that you've got left. So, hey, I'm Jason. My wife and I, we retired early at 39. Now we spend about half the year traveling. And actually, as I'm recording this, we're in Taiwan for about 2 weeks, as you can see. Pretty cool, right? In this video, I'm going to tell you how to design a retirement where you stop hoarding every single dollar out of fear and you start using that money to buy time and memories instead. You learn how to protect yourself without sacrificing the years where your body still lets you climb stairs, get on planes, chase grandkids around, and all that stuff. And you'll build some simple habits so you don't look back when you're 80 and think, man, I waited my whole life for freedom and then I wasted it. I'm also going to tell you about my friend Paul. He did almost everything right on paper and still woke up feeling like he completely missed the point. But then he turned it around. So yeah, there's hope. Alright, so if you retire around 65 and you live to 85, that's about 20 years, right? And that sounds like a lot until you realize that only a small slice of that, like a really small slice, is truly healthy. The go-go time, as they call it. You know what I mean? So no one tells you this in your 30s and 40s. But by the time you get here, trust me, you can feel it. In your knees, in your back, or in my case, in your ankles. And how long it takes you to recover from even a simple injury. Like, you just mildly twist your ankle, and suddenly it's 3 weeks instead of 3 days. My friend Paul, he hit 64 and finally left a job that he hated for years. He had the big 401k, the paid off house, the whole "you did everything right" gold star from his financial advisor. So like the second week of retirement, he calls me up, and at first we're just talking about normal stuff, how he's adjusting and whatever. But then he gets quiet for a second and he goes, "Can I ask you something?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And he says, "Do you think, honestly, did I wait too long?" And I could tell he wasn't talking about money, it was something else. So here's what I realized, and I think this is the first big thing to understand, that money isn't really about money, like it's about time freedom. It's not some number you're checking on a spreadsheet once a month. It's literally the ability to wake up and go, you know what? I'm taking my granddaughter to the park today, instead of your calendar just, owning you. And that's how we live when we're traveling like this. We typically only have a very loose itinerary, if any at all. For example, today we had nothing planned, so I decided to make this video for you guys. And tonight we'll probably go to one of the local night markets here. So here's how I think about it. If you're so scared of running out of money that it's basically stealing all your best years right now, that fear, it's costing you way too much already. You're paying a huge price for that fear. Real quick, I went from trading my life away for a paycheck to living on my own terms with $1 million, and the world is my office by 39. Want the same freedom? Subscribe to this channel now. I break down the exact strategies that actually work, and honestly, the brutal reality of what early retirement demands from you. Because you need both to escape the trap and actually stay free. Okay, so back to Paul. He told me something one time that really stuck with me. He goes, "Jason, I spent 40 years saving for weekends, and I was too tired to even enjoy them." And that's the trap, right? So many people over 40 are in that exact same spot and just, well, nobody wants to say it out loud. So I guess what I'm asking you is, if you keep living the exact same way for the next 10 years, what are you actually buying with all this savings and worry? Like, what's the payoff? When my wife and I stepped away from full-time work and hit early retirement at 39, we made this promise to each other. Pretty simple one. We're going to buy experiences, not a bunch of junk that we don't even need to impress people who honestly don't even care anyway. That's why we're in Taiwan right now for 2 weeks, and we'll be in Asia for the next 5 months, instead of, I don't know, driving some fancier car back home or whatever. Here in Asia, we get to walk to these little alleys, we get to eat food that we can't even pronounce. Sometimes we have literally no idea what we're ordering. We get lost on purpose. Man, those stick. They become part of our story together in a way that stuff just, it doesn't. Paul told me something over the phone one day that really made me stop and think. He goes, I can tell you every single car that I ever bought, but I can't remember most of the years that I actually owned them. But the trips that I took with my kids, yeah, I remember those. And man, that hit me hard. That's probably the second big thing that I want you to take away from this. Spend your money on moments that you'll still be talking about when you're 80. Not on stuff that nobody's gonna remember in 5 years, including you. And look, you don't need to fly across the world for this, by the way. For you, it might just be, I don't know, a simple road trip with your spouse instead of redoing the kitchen again. Or spending a week with your grandkids in some cabin somewhere instead of buying another toy that'll just be collecting dust in the garage. Or finally taking that class that you've been thinking about for 20 years instead of scrolling past the same websites every night. See, there's this thing, and some people call it the deathbed test. And I know that sounds morbid, but just think about it. When you're 90, are you going to care more about that extra money sitting in some account? Or about that trip that you almost talked yourself out of because it didn't feel responsible? My wife and I, we use this super simple little check-in every few months to make sure that we're not just kind of drifting and wasting our freedom. And it's actually something that Paul used to rethink his first year of retirement, so it finally started to feel alive instead of just empty. And I'll share that with you in just a minute. So hang with me, because that one little habit can honestly change what the next 10 years look like for you. Now, if it feels like the last 5 years just kind of vanished, well, you're not crazy. A lot of people feel that way. See, as we get older, time really does seem like it speeds up. It's not that the clock changed, it's that life gets more routine. Every day looks the same. Same chair, same shows, same grocery stores, same route on your walk. Your brain stops really printing those days as memories. They just all kind of blur together, and then you look back and go, wait, where did it all go? And that's exactly what Paul's life was like before he retired. One long blur of meetings and commuting. And after he retired, he almost slid into the same, slightly different version of the same thing. Coffee, TV, a little internet, repeat. On paper, he was totally fine. Financially safe, but emotionally, kind of numb. So that's the thing. If you want time to feel slower, you've got to do new stuff, new experiences. And look, that doesn't mean that you need to reinvent yourself or become some totally different person. It can be ridiculously simple. Just take a different route on your daily walk. Join some local club or class once a week. Say yes to a new restaurant or some activity when everything in you just wants to say, nah, I'm good. My wife and I, when we travel, like right now in Taiwan, we always joke about how these weeks feel way longer than entire months back home used to feel. And it's because every day has something new in it. And actually, I'd love to hear from you on this. Drop a comment and tell me. If you had 1 week totally free, no work, no obligations, nothing, how would you actually want to spend it? And I don't mean the responsible answer that you tell your financial advisor. I mean the real answer. You might honestly surprise yourself when you say it out loud. So, most people over 40 understand compound interest, right? You put in a little bit over and over, and eventually it turns into something big. Well, retirement kind of works the same way, just with a different currency. Like the small things that you do every day, investing in your relationships, your health, your experiences, those compound too. into a life that you're proud of or into one that you look back with regret. When Paul finally sat down and really looked at his new retired life, he didn't start with these massive goals or anything. He just started with his calendar. I told him to ask himself one question. If you lived this exact week on repeat for the next 5 years, would you be happy with where it takes you? And he didn't even hesitate. He just went, no. So he kept it really simple. He added one phone call a day to someone he actually cared about. One new thing a week, could be a class, a meetup, or honestly just going to a different park. And then one little mini adventure every month, like a day trip, an overnight somewhere with his wife, just something that he'd actually remember. And sure, none of that looks impressive on paper, right? But 6 months later, his whole life felt different. Same amount of money in the bank, just a completely different story. Another thing nobody really prepared Paul for, and maybe nobody told you this either, is how much retirement gets limited by your energy, not your money. Like, you can have a completely full bank account and still be running on fumes, you know? So here's the fourth thing that I want you to take away from this video. In retirement, managing your energy matters way more than managing your time. I mean, you probably already know when you feel most alive during the day, right? And for a lot of people, that's the morning. For others, it's the late afternoon. Whatever that window is for you, use it. Protect it. Put your best stuff here. Don't waste your prime hours scrolling through the news that just pisses you off or binge watching shows that you won't even remember next week. Save your good hours for the stuff that matters. Walks, trips, time with people that you actually love. Learn something. Whatever makes you feel more like you. Now, I'll admit, my wife and I, we aren't perfect at this. But we do try to design our days around our energy, especially when we travel. We usually walk in the mornings or at night here in Asia when it's much cooler. And then we'll explore a new area or night market and then save the lazy stuff like YouTube or mindless emails for the middle of the day when we're already tired and can take a nap if we want to. Because here's another thing that nobody really likes to say out loud. You've got a limited number of pain-free steps left. A limited number of flights where you'll feel strong enough to actually get on the plane. A limited number of times that you're going to be able to bend down and pick up a grandkid without even thinking about it. And I'm not saying that to freak you out. I'm saying that to wake you up. Alright, so this is that framework that I mentioned earlier. It's what my wife and I use so that we don't drift through our freedom and wake up 5 years later wondering what happened. It's super simple, and you can literally start this week. Every 3 months, we sit down and we ask ourselves 3 questions. 1, what gave us life these last few months? 2, what drained us? And 3, what do we want more of and less of in the next 3 months? When I told Paul about this, he actually laughed. He was like, that's it? That's so basic. But he tried it anyway. His first answers were something like time with his grandkids gave him life. Walks with his wife, learning to cook new stuff, this local volunteer thing that he'd gotten into. Those things made him feel alive. But endless TV, doom scrolling on his phone, saying yes to every single favor that people asked just because, well, you're retired now. That stuff drained him. So for the next 3 months, he decided more days with the grandkids, more volunteering that actually meant something, more new experiences, and way less saying yes just because he felt guilty. 3 months go by, and his life didn't just suddenly look like some movie or anything, but it finally felt like his. You can do the exact same thing. You don't need anyone's permission. You just got to put it on the calendar and be honest when you answer those questions. This is actually how my wife and I ended up spending half the year traveling. We didn't just wake up one day and decide, well, let's move overseas. We tested it out. We took some shorter trips, came back, asked ourselves those same 3 questions, and, well, slowly figured out a rhythm that worked for us. Your version might be totally different. Maybe it's travel. Maybe it's more time with family. Maybe it's volunteering or hobbies or something that I haven't even thought of. The point isn't to copy what we're doing. The point is to stop sleepwalking through your own life. If there's one thing in all this to hit you, whether it's realizing that time's speeding up or that maybe you've been oversaving and underliving, just do something small about it this week. Book that coffee date. Plan the day trip. Have that hard money conversation that you've been putting off. Retirement's short, my friend. Spend it wisely, not just safely. Want more retirement insights? Watch this next. I'll see you in the next one.